Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you. So continuing our string of deck profile updates for Season 11 here, we are now moving to probably my personal favorite. We all know at this point, any variant of Tri-Brigade is usually going to be my favorite deck here in Master Duel. Ever since I started. God, I say this all the time whenever I play Tri-Brigade. Like, I feel like back in my day being January 2022, Tri-Brigade was the best deck, and we liked it, and we did actually like it. I think the format where this deck was on top is definitely I think relatively fondly remembered one. I think Drytron catches all the hate from that format, which to be fair, you know, with the coin flip abuse that was happening, you know, where if you lose the coin flip, you can just disconnect for no penalty, and you can just leave the game. Yeah, that was definitely definitely more than a bit annoying, but even then, as far as like what deck was better, like more consistently, it was very much still Tri-Brigade, and I very much enjoyed playing it, and I still enjoy playing it, even if it's you know, kind of gone down to rogue status at this point, which is a bit unfortunate. Rogue decks, as we well know, are more than capable of hitting Diamond 1, just more than capable of being competitive in their own right. So I definitely don't mind coming back to Tri-Brigade at all for any reason, but especially not in this format where the branded package has very much added a decent power boost to the deck here, making it more relevant than it's been, I think, in the past there. So, yeah, of course, like I said, we're playing the branded engine with the getting out the Mirrorjade here, Mirrorjade plus Revolt being our ideal turn one, oftentimes even with a Mercourier in hand. If you're curious as to how that combo plays out, definitely feel free to check out the description below, where you will find a combo guide for this deck, so you can know just exactly how to end with that setup. Now, it's often enough that your hands either end up getting disrupted or are a little bit awkward and you're not always able to make that exact setup, but it's still not too difficult to do that. Really all it takes is like a Rescue Cat resolving, but sometimes it's a bit of an ask to ask for your your Rescue Cat to resolve there. I do still like this card. I have seen people ask why I'm only playing 2 copies, why I don't just craft a third and then play that as well. I have considered it. I've definitely considered it because opening with this card is very, very good, but there's a few reasons. Well, there's one major reason. The major reason is that drawing Rescue Cat later in the game is really, really awkward because you've often already used like all of your kits and or Kerasses, or at least most of them, enough that you either can't Rescue Cat or you can't really afford to, because you still need to be able to you know, do a kit setup in the graveyard later or get a Kerass later. But it's even more often than that just that you don't have the targets left in the deck even after like the first or second turn there. So, and I have had a couple of games where even with just the 2 Rescue Cats, I'll top deck one later in the game, and I'm just like, oof, this was a pretty bad top deck because I can't actually use it right now. So, while yes, the 3 copies of Rescue Cat does make opening it more often, which you definitely want to do, it also makes drawing it later more often, which you really don't want to do. Of course, it would also, I mean, it's not that I have any shortage of them, but it would also cost more Ultra Craft points, and everyone's always like, you have so many, you could just craft it, why don't you just do it? And I'm just like, my whole thing is, I've said this before, I'm doing it for future Lex, right? There's going to come a day, this day will come, where I need these craft points, and future Lex is going to be very grateful to me, present Lex, than past Lex, for having saved them. So that's why I'm as staunch about saving my craft points as I am. I saw a comment once, this was a long time ago, and I saw a comment once, I don't even think it was on YouTube, I think it was on like a Reddit, where someone was like, I don't think Lex knows what they're saving for, and I'm like, no, I don't really, but I know I'm going to need them someday. In any case here, yeah. I'm also trying to think of what I would even take out for the 3rd Rescue Cat, because honestly, in this particular build, these 40 cards all feel essential. Like, I guess I could take out a Veiler or like an Imperm, but I like having maxed out, quote-unquote maxed out. I only usually use 2 Veilers, not 3, because I think 3 is a bit overkill. I think 2 is kind of a sweet spot there, but yeah, I do like having like a total of 5 fast negates, right? The 2 Veiler and 3 Imperm, especially in this format, where these cards are really, really good against Branded DESPIA and Sword Soul Tenki. We also have Monster Negate in the form of the Psy-Frame Gear Gamma. The Psy-Frame Gear is actually mostly here to aid the Rescue Cat, honestly, because if we, you know, summon the cat and activate its effect and they Ash Blossom, then, or they Maxx, you know, then of course we can drop the Psy-Frame Gear Gamma. Now we're not playing the Psy-Frame Lord Omega in the extra deck anymore. I had mentioned this last time too, but I've included a second Ferrijit instead. There was one time where the Psy-Frame Lord Omega could have come up again, but I haven't been keeping track of how often I've used the second Ferrijit. I need to be more mindful of that, because I'm really trying to, that's like the flex spot in this extra deck, and I'm really trying to figure out which one of those cards I like more. I think they probably both about come up as often as the other. Since Ferrijit is a needed part of the Rescue Cat combo, though, that's why I feel inclined to include a second copy there, over, again, the PSY-Frame Lord Omega. But I have considered the Omega more, so... let's see here. I don't think this build, even though, you know, at the beginning of the season, or rather, more apt to say, at the end of the last season when the Bitless change happened, you know, you saw in that, you know, sharing my decks video, that I completely rebuilt all of my decks, or all the decks that I wanted to try anyway. And I think this is one of those decks where even after completely rebuilding it, I think I landed on exactly the same 40 cards in the main and 15 in the extra as before, and I'm totally okay with that. That might seem like, well, isn't that kind of like a waste of time? And to me, no, it's not a waste of time, because it means it's confirming that the build I had before is consistently the most solid build. So, yeah, we definitely like to see that. Like, I'm not sad at all to have, like, spent the time to do that, to have that knowledge. I also very much just like building decks anyway. Like, even just the process of, like, typing them and clicking them. I don't know, deck building has just always been fun for me, so I definitely don't mind doing it, or just having an excuse to do it in general, so... I think that's about all I really want to talk about the deck here. Let's go ahead and break it down card by card, and then look at some gameplay. Excuse me, sorry about that. So we are playing 1 PSY-Frame Driver, 2 Effect Veiler, 3 Tri-Brigade Nervall, 3 Maxx, 1 PSY-Frame Gear Gamma, 1 Tri-Brigade Kerass, 3 Tri-Brigade Kitt, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Rescue Cat, 1 Fallen of Albaz, 2 Tri-Brigade Fraktall, 1 Tri-Brigade Mercourier, 1 Albion the Shrouded Dragon, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Harpies for the Duster, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Branded Fusion, 2 Fire Formation Tenki, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Tri-Brigade Revolt, and 1 Branded Sword. That's going to round out the main deck there. Extra deck will have 1 Brigand, the Glory Dragon, 1 Albion, the Branded Dragon, 1 Mirrorjade, the Iceblade Dragon, 1 Salamangreat Almiraj, 1 Predaplant Verte Anaconda, 1 Ancient Warrior's Oath, Double Dragon Lord, 2 Tri-Brigade Ferrijit, the Barren Blossom, 1 Tri-Brigade Bearbrumm, the Rampant Rampager, 1 Racefulger, the Desperate Doom Eagle, 1 Tri-Brigade Rugal, the Silver Sheller, 1 Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, 1 Axis Kotaker, and then finally 2 Tri-Brigade Shurg, the Ominous Omen. Alright, that is going to do it for the deck list there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some gameplay. Alright, so this first duel is going to be a pretty quick one against Flandres. I mostly threw this one in just to kind of like, I don't know, I think it's pretty satisfying just to have any solid win against Flandres, because I'm really not a huge fan of that deck, to be totally honest. I don't like to really complain too much about it, but it's not the most fun deck to be matched up against. So for an opponent to have a Rabina and for us to Veiler it and for it to actually resolve is very, very nice. It could have been very easy for my opponent to have the Advent of Adventure here, which is essentially like 3 extra call buys for the deck, but they didn't, so haha. In any case here, I'm looking at my hand, and I actually have quite a few options with this hand. As you can see, I decided to lead with the Tenki, but I could have led with the Rescue Cat if I wanted to as well. But basically, if you have the option to Tenki and try to do a Fraktall line to bait out the Ash Blossom before you normal summon the Rescue Cat, I definitely recommend doing that. Now, here we have a Call by the Grave, so we could potentially use that against Ash Blossom, but I mean, it's not hard for an opponent to have, like, you know, Ash Blossom and, you know, Maxx, or like, you know, they don't have anything in their graveyard, so they could Dimension Shifter here. So I wouldn't be keeping the call by for that as well. Now, I think if they had the Dimension Shifter, they'd probably activate it in response to this Tenki here, but they didn't, so it doesn't look like they have that. I'll go ahead and use the Fractal effect to send Kitt. Kitt will activate to send Nervall. I'll go ahead and add Kerass, even though I don't have another you know, target to discard here. I usually do like to add the Kerass, even if I don't have something else, for a potential later play. Maybe even later in the turn I'll have something that can wheel a Tri-type monster back to my hand. I don't think that's going to happen, but, you know, next turn it could be handy to have a play set up and then maybe end up in a situation where, oh, my opponent stops my play, but I can still special some of this Kerass that I added. So, yeah, if I don't usually have anything in particular I need to add off the Nervall, I'll usually default to adding a Kerass for later. But here I'll go ahead and normal summon the Rescue Cat and get the effect off. My opponent did actually save the Ash Blossom for it, but we also had have the call by anyway, so yeah, it's not going to matter too much here at all. And the opponent just concedes at that point. Funnily enough, I I don't know if I actually had lethal there. I'm trying to think. If one Rescue Cat can lethal by itself, well, I would have made, of course, the Ferrijit, especially the Kerass. I could have made a Bearbrumm. Yeah, I think I could have lethaled. If I can make a Bearbrumm and discard it to special something, usually if you can do that, you can lethal. Yeah, because then I could have brought something back. I could have made an accident. Yeah, that would have been an easy lethal. So, okay, I did actually have lethal off just Rescue Cat. So, yeah, that said, we definitely take these wins against Flaunderies. Again, I'm just really grateful they didn't have the Advent Adventure. I know that was a quick one, but I've actually just after this got another more in-depth game, or more back-and-forth game against Flaunderies. So let's actually just jump straight into that game. Okay, so here is that aforementioned follow-up game against Flaunderies there. A different Flaunderies player, but this one's going to be a bit more of a back-and-forth. We are going to be taking the second turn again, and we do actually end up in more or less the exact same scenario where our opponent's going to start by normal sending a Rabina. We've got the negate for it, and thank God they actually don't have the Advent Adventure for once. So, yeah, again, we love to see it. And these were actually the only games I actually played against Flaunderies in this little play session here, so I'm definitely grateful for that. The 2 times we paired against it and had to go second, both times we, at the very least, they had the negation, they didn't have the Advent of Adventure. I'm going to pop off the Tenki here, opponent's going to respond with the Ash Blossom. I'll Crossout Designator here. The Ash Blossom still, they should have waited for the Fraktall, I think. It's usually right to do that. Although actually here it would have been better for me to have the Fraktall engraved. So in this specific scenario, it was better for them to Ash Blossom the Tenki. But like I said, we've got the Crossout. I did potentially think about not using it here, the Crossout I mean, because I was like, what if their face down is Imperm? I did want to try to be mindful of that, but even if the face down is Imperm, we've already got a Revolt in hand, so I'm not really super concerned. Plus, even if they Imperm the Kitt here, I can still follow up with this Kerass, discarding the Nervall, and still have plays. Which is actually exactly what's going to happen. I did figure that was probably an Imperm. Or maybe a Call By is the other card I was thinking, which I also could have hit the Crossout Designator. But yeah, I've got the follow-up with the Kerass here. I can pitch the Nervall, that'll give me 2 things to banish anyway. So the Ferrijit, and then I move to battle phase. You might be thinking, well, that's a little weird. Isn't there anything else you wanted to do before moving to battle phase? And, you know, mid-game I was actually thinking pretty hard about this. I'm looking at my extra deck, right? I'm thinking about, what can I make here? Because obviously I've already used the Kitt and the Kerass effect. I don't have 2 cards to discard with Bearbrumm, so I can't extend in that manner. So I've only got these 3, but you know, total of link 4 materials to work with. I could climb into an access code talker here, but that's actually not lethal. It's still only going to be a total of, what, 4,700 points of damage, so not enough to finish my opponent off, and the access code talker doesn't do anything on my opponent's turn. It's not a form of disruption at all. I want disruption here. I mean, I've got the Revolt, but Flaunderies, you know, the banish is like, it's still fine, but it's not always enough to stop them. I want negation as well. So I'm thinking, okay, I probably want to go into Appaloosa here. And I've got the materials to make it, but I have more damage if I just battle before going into the Appaloosa, which is why I moved to battle phase here. That might have looked like a little bit weird, but just considering what all options I have available in my extra deck, I could have also thought about going for Verte as well, and going for a Mirrorjade setup, but again, against Flaunderies, I definitely want to negate their monster effects more than I want to banish their cards. Plus, I already have the banish with the Revolt anyway, so... Yep, I'll set the Revolt here and then pass. Opponent is going to lead with a Stree, and then they'll use the Rabina's effect as well. I'm fine with this Chain Block. I would, of course, much rather negate the Rabina coming back than the Stree banishing a random card from my graveyard. We'll have to see if they have another Flaunderies monster in their hand, but given that they didn't last turn with the Rabina, well, the Rabina got negated, so... But given, I guess, that they have 2 cards in hand, I don't think it's super likely. Here they'll set a card and pass. Of course, during the end phase, I'm going to flip up the Revolt to banish this face down card, just in case something like an Imperm or something else annoying that could potentially mess me up later. Obviously, not really super concerned about the Stree because it's just a small monster, and then, you know, the Revolt will also get us a follow-up play with the Nervall Search and Kitt Send here as well. So this is looking like a pretty confirmed game against Flaunderies. If this last card didn't do anything in the hand, I mean, if this last card wasn't Disruption last turn, it's probably not going to be Disruption again this turn. Face down card ended up being the you know, Dreamtown, which I don't think they particularly could have done anything with anyway, but yeah, here I'll just normal summon the Fraktall, use the effect Banish 3 for the Racefulgur. That'll give me the Banish of the Stree effect. I can also search the Mercourier. I can even use the Racefulgur effect, putting their only monster engraved Ash back to double its attack points, so... more than enough damage, far more than enough damage, but there's nothing really satisfying with the 4800 excuse me, 4800 attack race holder. It doesn't come up all the time, but when it does, oof, it's nice. But then, of course, I don't even attack with it. How about that? I like finishing them with Shrouded. I like finishing with the boss monster. It just feels nice. So, yeah, it's going to go ahead and do it for that game. Let's move into the next one. Okay, this next duel is going to be against Branded DESPIA. So, definitely like to see these matchups against meta, just relevant decks in general. It's funny, when I've played the like tier 1 decks, I feel like when I played Branded DESPIA and I think Sword Soul earlier, if I remember those games, there were just a lot of rogue decks, but then when I play the rogue decks, I get matched up against the meta decks, which I guess I'd rather have it that way, so... yeah, I'll lead with the Foolish here for the kit. I don't have a whole, like a ton of options here with just the Foolish, but Foolish by itself is still enough for an opening play. So, I'll go ahead and get the kit here. Normal some of that to banish 2 for Bearbrumm. I did stop and consider, opponent's got a Maxx, but whatever, I've got Nash Blossom, I don't really care about that, so... I did stop and consider whether or not I wanted to use Bearbrumm's effect, but I ultimately decided that it was more worth it to have the Maxx and the Crossout Designator than just the extra, result of the extra extender from the Bearbrumm combo. I was trying to figure out if I could Mirrorjade plus Revolt, but I really didn't have a super easy means of doing that here. Again, it would just cost me too much advantage, and I wanted to keep the Maxx and the Crossout Designator, so... besides, the Tri-Brigade Driver is a good card to put back with the Bearbrumm effect anyway, so that just kind of solidified it for me. So this Revolt isn't immediately live here. This Tri-Brigade Revolt is going to have to go to the graveyard first, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad play here. Now, I'm actually really, really glad I kept this Crossout Designator and set it, because my opponent activated a Branded Fusion here. As soon as I saw the Albert, I was like, oh dang, I can't negate that. But then I realized, like, wait a second, they're going to add a Branded Fusion. Wait a second, I can cross out that, I can negate that. And, like, sure enough, your opponent activates Branded Fusion, and I get to call Branded Fusion with Crossout Designator. It's funny, I don't know how, obviously I don't know Phantom Magic, I don't know how well versed in the meta they are, but I like to imagine this moment they were kind of thinking like, wait, is my opponent really making Brain Diffusion just to call it with Crossout? Because I've encountered that before. I can't think of the specific example, but I've encountered opponents who are playing Crossout, like playing one copy of like another meta-relevant card just to call it with Crossout. I don't think that's right, by the way. Don't do that if the card is dead in your deck. Like, it's definitely not worth it at all. That might seem really tempting, but it's not worth it at all. But I just think it's funny here that we actually end up in a situation where we are playing, like... Because I never even thought about that before, but I was like, oh, shit, that's right. We're playing Branded Fusion, so we can actually call it with a Crossout. That's really... Obviously, that would be a lot more relevant if Crossout was still at 3. That's probably why I haven't noticed it come up yet, but... I will say Phantom Magic, that is a very nice call by the Grave. I'm always very jealous of opponents who have Royal Finish staples. What I wouldn't give for like a Royal Finish Maxx or something. Or Royal Finish Nibiru. Ooh, that'd be so pretty. Any of them, really. In any case here. We're not going to get the Nervall Surge for the follow play, but that's fine. We already have a ton of damage on board, so... we actually need just another, 1300 damage. We even ripped a Kerass off the top, so... I was going to say that too. We could rip any Tri-Brigade monster and be good here. Once again, I'm going to get the Braceful, and by banishing the Mercourier, we can add the Albion. Even though I've already sent the Branded Fusion, I still want this Branded Sword out of my deck, so I'll send that. And opponent just concedes at that point, and I've got more than enough damage here on board. So, GG's Phantom Magic. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Alright, this duel is going to be against a 60-card variant of Branded DESPIA, a Grass-branded deck. Which I suppose is another thing. I mean, I've talked about crafting grass for a little while now. Maybe, touching grass for a change. And I kind of had this thought of, like, if I just craft grass, maybe I should just try 60-card variants of, like, all my decks. And I was thinking, like, 60-card Branded DESPIA actually doesn't sound that bad. And I was just looking at the opponent's list here just a little bit before the game started, just kind of looking for ideas, I guess. Still not, like, super committed to crafting grasses, but I'm getting closer and closer every day, I feel like, so. In any case here, I'll start with the Kerass here, pitching the Nervall. Opponent's going to Maxx. Thankfully, I've got the Crossout to call the Maxx here. I'm going to use Nervall's effect to add Kitt here, and I'll just go ahead and normal summon Kitt and send her for the Almiraj. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do this, and I feel like this line I maybe could have done a bit differently / better. If you can spot a way I could have, definitely let me know in the comments, because I'm curious, but I need to set up 2 stuff engraved for the Kerass here, but this line does give me the Kitt, or does allow Kitt to send the Mercourier, so I can, set up the Branded Sword engrave and or rather I can search the Albion to send the branded sword to grave, and then, oh wait, did I do that? I don't even remember, jeez. But I was trying to figure out why I still had Albion in hand. In any case, we can pitch it for Bearbrumm and then go for the Mirrorjade plus Revolt setup. This Revolt will not be able to summon a Shrouded though. That's like the main drawback of having done it this way, is that we only have 3 Tri-Brigade monsters we can actually summon. We can't summon the Bearbrumm because we made it with a Tri-Brigade monster as effect. Which is why we're not able to do that there. But we do still have the Mirrorjade plus Mercourier, and the Revolt down, even if it can't get Shrouded, can still get the Rugal. More importantly, can get the Nervall, Search, and the Kitt Send. And then Rugal can even bring back a Tri-Brigade monster and then later add it to hand during the end phase if it stays on board. So this Revolt, even though it's not going for a Shroud, still fairly good here. And in this situation, if the opponent's got a Feather Dust or nothing else, the Shroud wouldn't have even had anything to banish anyway. So like, even if my opponent, again, if I had been able to summon a Shroud, I think in this case I might have summoned Rugal anyway, just to save the Shroud for later. Just, I don't know, I'm just theorying this. I feel like I've done that before, like even recently. I think I've made that play. Where I go for Rugal instead of a Shroud. Because I'm just thinking about it, right? Like the Shroud, if you can't use the effect, it's just a 3k body. But the Rugal, while having less attack points, can still at least have a relevant effect. Okay, I was trying to figure out when I wanted to Mirrorjade here. This was actually really tricky. Or not just Mirrorjade, but Mercourier as well. Obviously, because of the chain blocking, we can't Mercourier the Lubellion, which is really too bad. I thought about not banishing the Lubellion, because that obviously doesn't do anything. The Lubellion still resolves. We're just trying to figure out how I wanted to deal with this Mirrorjade. I figured what ended up being the best way to take care of it is just let my opponent go and activate their effect first. Because here's the thing, I would have liked to Mercourier the end phase effect of Mirrorjade, or the effect that activates where during the end phase things are destroyed, but any situation where that effect would activate, my opponent would have already banished my Mirrorjade, because that's obviously what they're going to banish. So I have to Mercourier that effect to make sure my Mirrorjade doesn't get banished, so the opponent's Mirrorjade effect to destroy my stuff during the end phase will resolve. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have had this Rugal and the Anaconda, and of course whatever the Rugal is going to bring back for the next turn, but that's just not going to be viable here. We do have the Fraktall in hand for the follow-up play anyway, so I'm not like super duper concerned about it, but at the very least, thanks to Almiraj, we can at least ensure that our Mirrorjade is going to survive. So that's just really, I don't know, that was a very interesting kind of setup we had there. It's funny, in the actual game I ended up with not that much time left because I was spending a lot of time thinking about like how things were going to resolve, if there was any way I could possibly get away with using Mercourier on the effect to destroy my stuff during the end phase, not the banish. But again, oh, thanks effect failure, by the way, right on time. In any case, yeah, the opponent was always going to use the banish effect on my Mirrorjade, so I always had to use the Mercourier effect on that effect, so. Doesn't stop us from making access code talker, though. Yeah, as long as we've got the Tri-Brigade monster, it's usually, you know, pretty easy to make the access code talker on the follow-up turn. And we can easily pop the opponent's board, switch our Mirrorjade to attack mode, and just go for an easy lethal. Our opponent clearly recognizes that and then concedes as a result. So, yeah, that is going to go ahead and do it for the games. That's all the ones that we've got for today. So let's go ahead and move now to the outro. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for watching all the way to the very end like this, especially for this video, because it's, of course, it's Tri-Brigade, and we all know how much I love Tri-Brigade, so while it means a lot when you watch the end of any video, it especially means a lot to me personally when it's a Tri-Brigade video. So thank you very much, and also thank you to all of you who are commenting and or subscribing. Comments, love to see you. With those suggestions for both gameplay and deck building. I'm really, like I said in the profile, aside from trying to fit in a third Rescue Cat potentially, I really like these 40 cards in particular. Like, this set of 40 I think feels really, really good for this deck wants to be. I think we could potentially drop, you know, an Effect Veiler for a third Rescue Cat. I think that would probably be the card to drop. And then, yeah, we would open with it more consistently, but you know, even when we don't open Rescue Cat, it's not hard to open just relevant plays in general. So that's another reason why I don't feel too fussed to have a third Rescue Cat, but I'm not saying it wouldn't be optimal. I'd be willing to try it if I had it. It's just a matter of, like, I can think of enough reasons why I wouldn't want to play a third Rescue Cat to not want to craft one as well. So I guess that's another reason. I'm just kind of like justifying it. But in any case, like I said, I really like these 40 cards. But if you have any more suggestions for the extra deck as well, just in general, just feel free to throw them in the comments there. And subscribing, yep, is another great way of supporting the channel. Also means a lot to me personally, and will also get you notified of when my videos drop. That does happen every single day, by the way, so know that when you subscribe, you do get a daily Master Duel video. But that is all the time that I've got for today, so without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.